Hey, I'm Scott.
And I'm Chris.
And this is Doxalogic, where we help you think with your Bible.
It's good to be back for another Mailbag episode on Doxalogic. Gentlemen, hello.
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 So good to be together.
It really is.
The spring weather. It's
Spring?
warm outside. Yeah, it's going to be
It's
summer.
blazing.
There
It's
was no spring.
Yeah,
there was winter,
there was
and
rain.
then there was summer.
Fair
my
rain and then
gosh.
95 degrees. That's just that year. Or that's been the year so
Yeah.
far. But it's joy to be together. So we got good questions ahead of us.
Yeah, let's just jump right in. Scott, you'll need to help us with what sermon this is referring. So in relation to your last sermon, our small group is wondering, why was it a good thing that Jacob wrestled with God for a blessing? It sounds like a disrespectful action.
Persistence. That was the point of that illustration.
Yeah.
I was preaching Colossians 4, and Colossians 4 says, continue steadfastly in prayer, being watchful in it with thanksgiving. And I think even the question addresses maybe one of the concerns in general is I think as Christians, we struggle with persistent prayer. It's hard to wrap your mind around persistent prayer, in part because God doesn't need the information.
Yeah.
He technically knows before we even ask him.
Right.
So why would we need to say it over and over and over again? And yet there is a pleading with, there is a I'm not leaving your presence until you bless kind of faith, actually. That seems a little audacious, but ends up being, and you see this in Luke 18 with the parable of the persistent widow, of not going away until the Lord answers. And there's just a tremendous amount of faith that's built into that, and just an unwavering commitment to, until the Lord responds, I will continue to petition him. He is my only hope going forward. He is my only source of strength, power, and literally anything I need. I come as the needy and dependent one again and again and again. And it's not like, the joke with a marriage is like, sweetheart, I love you. And if that changes, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll let you know.
But otherwise, I'll never say it again. And that's a foolish thing to do, right?
Yeah.
For the record.
For the record.
Yeah. Not marriage advice.
Right, exactly. And instead, we would come again and again and again and again. And to come to the Lord again and again and again and again, or refusing to leave, is simply showing I am a desperate creation. I'm a desperate image bearer. I need, you have, I'm insufficient, you are sufficient. I don't have a way forward without you. I think of even Moses, right? In the Exodus 33, where he's talking about, like, if you don't go with us, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
If your presence doesn't go with us, there is nothing in it for me to go. So simply just addressing the idea of persistent prayer. And I think in that section of the sermon, I threw together just multiple examples of a kind of persistence that, frankly, and I thought about this as I was preparing, I think we're uncomfortable with. I think I'm uncomfortable with, because I think there's a clashing logic and even a sense of like, well, we don't overly want to beg our Father for those things. We don't ultimately want to plead that much. And the Lord's going, no, plead that much. Keep coming, keep asking, keep knocking.
It's good.
Would you still have an encouragement for someone who's like, okay, even if it's a no or unanswered, like there's still like that I trust no matter what.
Yep. And that's the best part.
Yeah.
Because guess where that trust is really like where it situates itself? In communion with God. You can't have true trust where you really trust him if you're disconnected from him in relationship. What gets you in there? Continuing to go before that throne of grace, right? Prayer is that access point to that communion you can have with God.
One other example briefly, this is a sad example, but I thought about 2 Samuel chapter 12 with David and his child.
I was thinking the exact same thing in my
So
head.
you've got Nathan, the prophet, exposing that he knows through the Lord about David and Bathsheba. You are the man is in there. And then Nathan says that the child born to Bathsheba will die. And yet, the Lord afflicted the child that Uriah's wife had bore to David. This is now verse 15 and 16. David, therefore, this is chapter 12, David, therefore, sought God on behalf of the child, and David fasted and went in and lay all night on the ground, and on the seventh day the child died. I'm summarizing, I skipped a little bit, but just to say, the promise was already there, and yet David sought the Lord in the event that something else could happen,
he
because
might
it
be
could have.
gracious.
The Lord
Right.
could have willed that this would be how things would unfold. And yet when it was final and the baby died, which is obviously a certain type of very stark finality that we don't always have that much clarity on about
Sure.
circumstances in our life, but nonetheless, he
Gets
got up and he washed
Goes to
and
the-
anointed himself, changed his clothes, and
Goes to worship, right?
goes to worship. And so you've got even that. Now it's a 7-day period, not but years and
Sure.
years. But there's other examples
Yep.
that promote years and years of diligent seeking the Lord. But just another one there that just trust the Lord, seek Him earnestly, in a sense wrestle spiritually with what he'd heard from the prophet. And then when God followed through on it,
Yep.
he trusting Him, he
So
gets
good.
up and goes to
It's a
worship.
great example, and it's God is glorified in our persistent neediness of Him. We take that to Him, and in that He is glorified as the one who can supply our need.
And to this person who asked the question, I understand the question and where it comes from. They're like, what was it? Almost seems disrespectful. I would just say, try to tell that to David. God did not seem disrespected by his own prophet said the son's going to die, and yet David did what he did.
Yeah,
Is
did the
that
opposite,
disrespectful that David sought the
we
Lord
heard
for
your
7
word,
days?
but-
He
yeah.
heard the word, and not. It's not that he didn't believe it, but he still sought the Lord for something else to take place. You get nothing from the text that it would be disrespectful to do that. So we we philosophize about things and rationalize things and kind of see it from his perspective. I would just tell you, go back to Genesis, the story of Jacob, look at stories like this. Tell me where any of that is disrespectful, where the Bible tells you that God took that as disrespectful. You don't find it.
Yeah.
So you got to watch out for that type of conclusion. It seems to me, again, compassion to the person thinking that way, but just you're not going to see the Bible say that. And so you are the one that should drop that perspective and realize it's not disrespectful.
Do you also think of like Christ in the garden praying to the Father before the cross? Like,
There you go.
I don't think that was disrespectful, but
Yeah.
he
Good
knew
point.
what was going to happen.
Good
Yep.
point.
Laying it
Great
on the
point.
line.
Yeah, let's not forget that one. Turns out that's a pretty good example as
He
well.
modeled that for us, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so persistent prayer.
You've been listening to Doxalogic, a podcast by Doxa Church in Rockland, California. To learn more, visit us online at doxa.church.